All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be back.
Today we are going to be talking about something I think everybody listening to this has definitely experienced in one way or another.
Yeah.
Air travel.
It's true.
Specifically some anecdotes from suggestions for travel blog posts about air travel and sort of the humor, the shared experiences.
Leveled moments, yeah.
Yeah, the things that make us all laugh and groan and connect over.
Yeah. And it's interesting because air travel is one of those things where it's like we all kind of hate it, but then we all have these like really vivid stories about it.
I feel like there is a lot of room for potential humor
Yeah.
and kind of bonding over the shared misery or
Yeah, it's like it's so stressful and anxiety inducing, but then at the same time, like you said, it produces these like really funny moments sometimes.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, why is that?
Well, so let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
One thing that kind of stood out to me in the material that we have here is just the sheer number of anecdotes about delays.
Oh yeah, delays are like the classic air travel complaint. It's like a universal experience.
And it's not just the delay itself. It's kind of the the waiting and the not knowing.
And the anticipation.
And sort of emotional roller coaster.
Oh yeah, you go through like all the stages of grief.
Totally.
In like a 2-hour delay, you know what I mean?
You're like, at first you're like, oh, it's just gonna be a few minutes, no big deal.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I'll just get a snack.
And then it's like an hour.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh God, I'm gonna miss my connection.
Yes. And then it's like 3 hours and you're like, all right, I guess this is my life now.
And then by the end, you're just like numb. You're just like, whatever happens, happens.
It's interesting to think about like the psychology of that too.
It is.
Like what is it about being in an airport that kind of puts you in that headspace?
Well, I think it's the lack of control. You're at the mercy of the airlines and like the weather and like all these factors that you have absolutely no control over.
You're just stuck.
You're just stuck.
Yeah, and not only that, but the delays themselves can have like a ripple effect.
Oh yeah.
One little delay can
mess up the whole system.
Totally.
Like, one plane's late taking off, that means it's late arriving, that means it's late getting turned around for its next flight, and then that affects all the passengers on that flight, and so on and so forth.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember one time I was delayed for like 4 hours.
Oh, God.
Because
that's brutal.
Because they were waiting for like a single piece of equipment.
Oh, wow.
To fix a plane.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear that a lot, actually.
Really?
Like, it's amazing how, like, one tiny little thing can just bring the whole operation to a halt.
Well, it makes sense if you think about it. Like, it's such a complex system.
It's all interconnected.
Everything has to work just right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh. It's kind of a miracle that it works as well as it does.
Right.
Most of the time.
Well, then what about this other common theme, which is lost luggage?
Oh, yeah. Lost luggage.
I have to admit, I've been there.
I think we all have at some point.
Yeah, it's that moment when the baggage carousel stops and your bag is not there.
It's just like this sinking feeling. You're like, where is it?
Did I even check a bag?
Like, did I even come on this flight?
Yeah, totally.
Like, what's happening?
I once had a bag that went to the Caribbean while I was going to a family reunion in like the Midwest.
Oh, so you were completely without your stuff.
I was like wearing the same clothes for like 3 days.
Oh, that's rough.
It was not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal.
But, it does make you think about, like, the logistics of it.
It does.
How many bags are being moved around the world every day?
Millions and millions of bags.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A lot.
Yeah, and they have all these systems, like the barcodes and the scanners and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But even with all that technology, like, things are going to go wrong sometimes. It's just statistically inevitable.
So another thing that came up a lot in the source material was the security check.
Oh.
Which is... I think we can all agree.
I think that's everyone's least favorite part of flying.
The least favorite part.
Yeah, it's just like this necessary evil.
And it's so interesting how the whole airport just becomes this like different world.
It does. It's like its own little ecosystem.
People act differently.
Yeah, people are like on edge.
And it's like
Curtis.
Everybody's doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's like this weird performance that we all have to go through.
Taking your shoes off, putting them in the bin. Taking your belt out.
And then you've got like the people who are like super prepared.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got their shoes off and their laptop out before they even get to the front of the line. And then you've got the people who are like fumbling around and holding everyone up.
And
it's like a comedy of errors sometimes.
Totally. And I'm sure you've seen this too, but it does feel like people's inhibitions are a little lower in the airport.
It's like we're all a little bit more vulnerable or something.
You see people like wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
You see people like
eating weird snacks.
Yelling at their kids.
Yeah, it's like all bets are off.
Yeah. And speaking of like kind of lowering your inhibitions, there were some pretty funny anecdotes in this material about people packing.
Oh, yeah.
Some interesting things in their carry-on luggage.
Like things that you would never expect to see in a carry-on bag.
Like things that should not have been in a carry-on bag.
Yeah, or like things that probably shouldn't have been packed at all.
Like embarrassing things?
Yeah, like really personal items.
Yeah.
That you would not want other people to see.
So it does make you wonder, like, what is it about air travel that...
Yeah, like what makes people do that?
Makes people do that?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's partly the stress.
Okay.
People are just not thinking straight when they're stressed.
They're just trying to get through it.
Exactly. They're just trying to get to their destination.
Right.
And then I think it's also partly the excitement of travel.
Okay.
People are like, oh, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to pack all this fun stuff.
Right.
And then they don't really think about the practicalities of it.
Right.
Like, how am I going to get this through security?
Here you go.
Or like, what if my bag gets lost?
So we've talked about the delays, we've talked about the lost luggage, we've talked about the security check, and all the kind of funny and sometimes awkward things that happen in the airport.
The little moments that make it memorable.
Yeah. So I guess the question is like, what is it about air travel that just makes it such...
Yeah, like why is it such a rich source of stories?
A fertile ground for storytelling?
I think it's because it's such a shared experience.
Okay. No matter who you are or where you're from.
We've all been there.
We've all been through the same thing.
And it's also like a very specific kind of experience,
It's like this weird little bubble of time.
It's like a little microcosm.
Yeah, where we're all just like crammed together in this metal tube.
Right.
Hurtling through the air.
And I think also there's something about like the anticipation of travel.
Oh, yeah.
You're going somewhere new. You're gonna have new experiences.
So it's like the beginning of an adventure.
And I think that kind of heightens everything.
Yeah, it makes everything more vivid.
So to wrap things up, I guess I'm curious to hear from you, the listener.
Yeah. What are your most memorable air travel experiences?
What are the things that have made you laugh or groan or just shake your head in disbelief?
What are your best airport stories?
Because I think there's something really